Good morning. How we doing? Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Candace.
Good
How are you
morning.
today? Pam, good morning.
Morning.
Sandra, all right. All right. Who had some good news from the weekend? What they want to share?
I took a listing.
You took a listing. Nice. Tell us about it.
A young couple with a 4-month-old baby. They're still in. They can sell their home. They've had it rented out, but it's not cash flow positive, so they're living someplace else. So we explored some options for them, and listings seem to be the very best. So they're excited about it. Listed as soon as the tenants move out, March 12th.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Who else? I got a message from somebody that said they wanted to sell their home. I helped them put a renter in it, God, probably like 10 years ago. And the property manager has helped out a couple of times find new tenants, and now they want to sell it.
Right.
Good news. Who else wants to share? So it's all about those relationships, y'all. All about those relationships. They're going to think about real estate just about every single day. And if they think about you when they think about real estate, that's when it really starts to get fun.
Yeah, I got a call from someone I had helped put in a rental, had put actually he and his family into 2 rentals. And anyway, he knows someone who's wanting to buy, and so he sent me their name. And I mean, I hadn't talked to him in about, I mean, I've left him messages and stuff, but I hadn't talked to him in about 2 years.
Wow.
And he called me, so I'm going to give his friend a call today. I just
Nice.
spoke to him last night. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, let's do one more, and then I want to jump into this checklist process a little bit. Let's do one more. Who else has some good news from the weekend? Anyone go back and watch any family reunion videos that they had missed previously? Don't forget that platform is open until mid-April. I think it's April 12th or April 13th.
I have a quick question, Bill, if we have time at some point.
Go ahead.
If you put in an offer for your buyer, right? You send in the offer before the deadline, and then your buyer changes his mind. He doesn't want to buy the house anymore. Do you have to actually send some kind of withdrawal, or can you just
Yes.
send an email or make a call to say, we've changed our mind, we want to withdraw our offer before they make a decision? How do you handle that?
Before the seller makes a decision, you mean?
Yeah, before the seller makes the decision, if the buyer changes their mind.
Yeah, there's a withdrawal form. I'm not in front of it right now, but it's something to the effect of withdraw the offer. You could probably just type withdraw and find it real quick. And then that essentially takes it back, for lack of a better way to put it, meaning there's no outstanding offer. I mean, that's how I would handle it. I suppose if you didn't do that and everyone was busy, and then they came back to you and say, "Hey, congrats, you're the winner," right? You say, "Hey, we're not going to sign it. I hadn't gotten around to it yet, but I was going to withdraw the offer." I don't think that's being a great co-op agent, but we're not talking about major penalties or anything like that here.
Okay, just wasn't sure if you could do it informally or if you actually had to use the form before
I would
accept.
recommend using the form.
Okay,
I
thanks.
recommend using the form.
Hey, Bill, I have something to share.
Yeah, please.
So, Friday, once we got off our call, you kind of made a challenge for us to do something nice and, tell you about it on Monday.
Oh, yeah. My bad. I forgot to bring that up. All right, tell us what you did.
So I cleaned out my closet and I came across 15 pair of shoes that I wanted to give away. So I put it on my Instagram and I had several people write me about shoes. So I just was able to bless people with 15 pair of shoes. So it was actually quite.
I love that. You're breaking up just a tiny bit. Say that one.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything else. I just said The last part?
Yeah, say that last part again. After you were able to bless 15 families or 15 people with the shoes, right? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, I said that they're gonna most of them are gonna come pick them up today. So I said the fact that they're free make people come get them faster anyways.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. We remember, for those that weren't on the call on Friday, our task, or our kind of homework, if you will, which was inspired by Twantis last week, was to surprise and delight somebody. Surprise and delight somebody. So do something for somebody that they're not expecting. Doesn't have to be real estate related. You just simply pouring into somebody, or offering something to somebody that they weren't expecting, and then you both get the benefit of how that exchange goes. Okay, so great job. You can continue to do that as many days as you want. And Donna, thank you for putting out, or who was it that put out the
Pam,
Pam? Not surprising. Thank you, Pam. F285, a notice to withdraw offer. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to do a little sharing of my screen right now, and we are going to go through a little bit of a checklist. Now, hang on, everybody. Just a moment. Okay, so here is a checklist for a buyer. This is in a file in the Google Drive called checklists. And there's a buyer version and a seller version. Let's go through the buyer version today. We'll go through the seller version tomorrow. Okay, I hear this question all the time. Okay, what do I do? Whoever that is, if you could mute yourself, that would be awesome. Okay. This is just my version of this from a couple of years ago that helps you walk through kind of the process of what you should do with a buyer from the very beginning to beyond the very end. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't add steps in here, and it doesn't mean that if you remove a step, depending on what step you remove, it could be problematic. Okay. So I want to make sure, like, for example, if you don't want to do something in video, or you don't want to make a duplicate copy of the contract, that's fine. I'm just showing you what I did. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do a real quick request. Cassandra, I'm going to make you a co-host. And so if you happen to see anybody in the waiting room, just let them in, please. Is that okay? And
yeah,
then
that's fine.
I'll be able to focus completely on this page here. Thank you for that. Okay, so there's also many videos on, I'm trying to think of, so with Greta and Jamette last week, there's a video that I posted on the YouTube page where we went through a lot of this material. We went into a ton of detail, particularly on some of the loan stuff. So if you are unfamiliar with what to do when you get a buyer, there are literally several videos that you can go back onto the YouTube page and watch, but I'm going to walk you through kind of the step-by-step stuff right now. Okay. Okay. First thing we're going to do, and by the way, a lot of these sheets are in the Google Drive as well. So the very first thing I did is I would make a copy. We all know we can go like this, right? Make a copy. And you could title it Jones buyer checklist or Williamson buyer checklist or something like that. So I would then put the names of the buyers here. I put the address that they were ultimately going to be purchasing whenever we found it. Okay. And this was just my very simple way. Now, I want to make sure that you do understand one thing, which is you can do all this in Command also, through the different phases and the different stages of the buyer process as you're moving the people through the different stages. And as you go further and further through the stages, the likelihood of you closing the deal according to the artificial intelligence increases. Okay. I built this prior to Command. So you could use this spreadsheet and use it to work through and customize the stages and the phases of the buyer process and ultimately the seller process you'll see tomorrow too. If you don't know what I'm talking about with respect to stages and phases, as you are putting an opportunity into Command, right? When it goes from like appointment to agreement to under contract, right? You're shifting the client cell over and over as you go further and further in the transaction. You can also go more detailed in each of those with checklist items, okay? So the very first thing I would do is I would have a buyer intake sheet. Okay, on the buyer intake sheet was many of the questions that I'd like to ask somebody that I'm just getting introduced to, right? So it's the basic kind of pre-qualification buyer questions, things like, you know, have you visited with a mortgage specialist? Are you pre-qualified? Are you currently renting now, or do you own a piece of property now? Right? Who's in your family? What's causing you a desire to move? What are the most important things? Do you have a budget? Right? These are all the questions on the intake sheet. So whenever when I'm on the telephone and it goes from just a regular old conversation to, I might have a prospect here, right? I just simply reach my hand over and grab the intake sheet. And the intake sheet tells me exactly what I should be asking. And I can write down the answers. And then depending on what systems you have set up behind the scenes, I would just scan this in and let my assistant put it in. Or I'd take a picture and WhatsApp it to her, and next thing you know, it's in command, exactly tagged and all that stuff the way I need it to be tagged. Okay. If you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Okay. That's okay. It's totally okay. You just got to have that awareness. Okay. So you have to have a system of saying, what is the way that my database gets updated, and how often does it happen, and what system do I have in place to make sure that it happens? Because if this is an intake sheet with a guy who's ready to spend 400 grand and somehow this doesn't get systematized and it falls through the cracks, I just lost 12 grand and somebody else is going to get paid. Does that make sense? So this stuff is super, super important. Okay. So by the way, let me just make sure I'm remembering this correctly. Okay, everything in the regular size font was my task, and everything in the bold font was my assistant's task, just to kind of help you understand where this form is coming from. Okay, so I was doing the intake sheet, and then Luth would add the buyer to the database with all the categories, right? Then I would schedule the buyer seminar, which is another basically buyer consultation, same thing. Okay, now at the buyer consultation, I would have a bunch more information, right? Because I've asked them more questions. So I know maybe what their dog's name is. I know what their kids like doing. I know where they like to vacation. I know what the wife's name is. Excuse me, that stuff, right? So I can go in and create an opportunity, or my assistant can, right? And I only bring the assistant thing up here is because I want you to always understand when you're working, when you're doing like $200 to $400 an hour work, and when you're doing $12 an hour work. Does that make sense? So quote, when you go and create the opportunity, you don't need a whole lot of special skill for that. I'm not trying to speak negatively about an assistant, but you have a skill set that allows you to get paid a whole lot more for your time. Does that make sense? Okay, so they created the opportunity. We created a GD as Google Drive file for the client. I always had everything backed up to Google Drive as well, so I could access it super easily. Remember, this was done when command really wasn't in place, right? So I'd have a Google Drive file for each client, and every time that there became an executed piece of contract or paperwork, we duplicate it in the Google Drive, okay? And then once a week, my assistant would recopy everything from the Google Drive into her external hard drive. And I would do that every single month. So we never were going to have a data issue. It was either on Google servers or on my external or her external. Okay. We'd get the buyer brokerage agreement signed, right? Generally, she would write that. I would scan it at the very end and make sure that it was done properly. And then we'd send it off for signatures. We'd set up an auto search. Okay. We're going to introduce them to the lender. Okay. So an introduction to the lender could be something like, you know, hey, Joe, this is Luth. This is Bill's, partner and assistant. And here are the names of several lenders that the team has worked very successfully with. Let me know if you have any questions. Here's their contact information, something of that nature, right? Then we do the first day out. Okay. And I didn't put, second, third, fifth, 18th day out here, but ultimately you're going to go to the offer submission. Okay. Now keep in mind at this time, pretty much what the offer is going to look like, right? For you more than often than not know, is it going to be an FHA loan, a conventional loan, a VA loan, right? You more or less know what the earnest money is going to be, right? What the number of days for the due diligence period is going to be. You know they're going to want an appraisal contingency and a financing contingency. You know that you're going to have to ask questions about the HOA documents or a termite letter and these kind of things, right? So is it reasonable to say you could probably write 80 to 90% of this offer ahead of time, right? Do you think that's important? Of course it is, because sometimes, you know, at least for me, I was so exhausted from showing the homes that a lot of times, like, it took a lot of energy for me to go home, like, say hi to my wife and kids, and then go retreat into my office to go spend another 2 hours explaining paperwork to a buyer. You see what I'm saying? Like, that was exhausting for me. So if I could do that, a lot of that work before there was any pressure, and then I just came home and I switched a couple of numbers and added an address and poof, it was off. That made the world of difference for me. You guys hear me on that?
I do. I got a
Yes.
question on that.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The question is, because I've been working with 2 buyers, and the way that DocuSign is set up, you can only have, like, when you go into details, you have, like, I've been having to redo it each time between the 2. You can't, like, set it up for one and then have another one set up for another buyer
Well,
at the
you have
same
your,
time.
I think you can. You can have, you have all the different opportunities. You can go back from one opportunity to the other opportunity. 2
But
buyers,
it's-
2 completely separate opportunities, right?
But it sends me into DocuSign to do that. And DocuSign has just details. If someone else knows how to do it, I love to learn how, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have not been able to do that.
Well, when you
It's
go
been a
to,
lot of work.
when you go to this part right here, so let me see if I can. When you're basically just at the opportunities homepage, right? And you see the cultivate, appointment, active, under contract. So if you go to, I mean, I don't have many files here, but you go to cultivate and you pick which buyer you want. And each buyer is at a different stage. And then once you click Aaron and Elizabeth Feltzer, then it has all of their documents. If you need to go, if it's time to work with buyer number 2, you go to this one. Show me later, I'll help you. That's an easy fix. Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Okay, was there one more question, somebody? Was there one more question? Okay. Then we get the buyer, oh, I'm sorry. First day out, offer submission, binding agreement. So now we have binding agreement. Okay, so that's in bold because that's a clerical, like, that's clerical, right? It's administrative. So once everything is binding, right, what do? I would send a little video. I used a system called BombBomb, B-O-M-B, to congratulate them. Hey, congratulations, right? We're moving to Roswell. This is awesome, right? We're just getting started. I got you every step of the way. I'm sure you're gonna have lots of questions. I got you, right? We're going through this together. No need to worry. You're protected. You got a great group around you that's gonna get you to the closing table. So go have a drink, right? Let's celebrate, okay? Then this is back when there was this thing called loops and green sheets, but basically you're going and you're handling all the compliance here, right? So you're making sure that you're, you know, uploading all the appropriate documents in all the appropriate places for DocuSign's compliance. Okay, confirm the updated file in DocuSign. So it's nice, you know, if there was old files that need to be archived, get them out of there, just make it nice and clean. And then update the file in Google Drive as well. We share the paperwork. So we're sharing the paperwork with the loan officer or a mortgage person. And we're sharing the paperwork with the closing attorney. And we're sharing the paperwork with the other agent. Okay. Create custom buyer info sheet. I don't know why it's not on here, but I always did a second tab that was basically an info sheet. And the info sheet was things like, you know, all the dates, right? Joe and Mary Smith, they're buying 123 Hill Street. their offer date was this, their binding agreement date was this is when the earnest money is due, this is when the due diligence period is up, this is financing deadline, this is appraisal deadline, here's the lender, here's the attorney, here's the other agent, here's, you know, all the codes that I need to know for this particular file. Like, it was just all the stuff that I might need at some point quickly, right? It was right there. Right. And it was on Google Drive, so I could access it from my phone. I could send it to whoever needed it very quickly. It was an information sheet for that file. Okay. Send welcome letter, contract deadlines, and fully executed contracts. I'm not sure why that's. Oh, I'm sorry. Send that's to the prospect or to the client, right? Hey, this is all the people that you'll be in communication with. This is Luth. She'll be handling some of the administrative stuff. This is, you know, Pam. She'll be involved in, you know, this segment of the deal, whatever. Here's how to reach her. You know, here are some important contract dates. You know, print this out and stick it on your fridge. And here's a copy of the fully executed contract for your file. Okay. Email a calendar of dates to buyer. We used to make the calendar thing a little pretty thing, and, you know, let them know all the different things they need, all the dates they needed to not forget. Okay. Collect the earnest money. Okay. We can wire it in. They can drop it off. You can go grab it. Oftentimes I use that as an opportunity to go see them one more time. Right. Because
Bill?
one sec. So sometimes, you know, they make this big decision and then you tell them, hey, congratulations, you're buying a house. And you get off the phone, you're like, cool, commission check coming. They get off the phone, they're like, holy shit, did I do the right thing? Right. So sometimes I would go and kind of go pick up the, you know, the earnest money check and give them a high five or give them a hug and make sure they're still cool. You see what I'm saying? Sandra, go ahead.
I just didn't know if you could see it. Nadine had a question about the green sheet and the loop.
Yes. So this is I'm just going to change it to say compliance checks here. Those were some older terms based on some older systems. So basically all the things that you need to do for the office, that's when you would do it. Does that make sense?
What are those things, Bill? Just because I'm not sure that I know them all.
Yeah. What I want to, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that, to be honest, but I'm going to have Lee come in one day and show us a little bit about that. But that is making sure that, you know, when you go in, you're in order to get paid, basically you have to drag in here's the purchase agreement. Here's the, you know, amendment to address concerns. Here's the financing contingency, right? It's all of the making sure that the office has a record of the how to split up the commission check, and they have all the particular parts of the contract in the appropriate place. Did I explain that properly, Pam? Where is she?
Yes, and it's in command. You know, if you go into command, Bill, can you, I don't know if you can want to do that on your screen.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, and just say, click on the Feltzers or somebody. And then go to documents.
Offers and commissions.
Well, and you just have to, like, you have to pull in the documents, like,
Right, see this right here, like agency agreement, disclosure marketing services, and you're adding
and
the
then
file.
click on under contract on the left, and you have to show those. Honestly, the one under consultation,
Yeah, they shouldn't really even have all that stuff. That's right.
correct, because under contract is what is the section that contract compliance looks at. So that's where you need all of those documents.
Yeah, I learned that too. I uploaded it all to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So
But-
everyone see that? So, you know, it walks you through several different parts of the timing of the file, right? So if you wanted, you could put these two documents here, but what Pam is suggesting is really putting them here, because if compliance doesn't see how they're right here as well, right? Purchase and sale, exhibit A, exhibit B, counter offers, right? And you're uploading each of the files right here. Okay. And then when you're
Okay.
done with that, you are going to the offers and commissions and showing them how the money is broken up. So like, here's what the PC program gets. Here's what a referral would be, or what, you know, who gets what. Okay, I don't want to turn this into a command class though. So I'm gonna have Lee come in and give us some more details there.
Sam has it on his YouTube channel as well.
Perfect, thank you. That's In Command with Sam. Okay, so update loose calendar with deadlines, because it needs to be on. Putting it on my calendar wasn't enough, because I mean there was times where we had 10 files going on and I couldn't keep track of everything. So Luth, every morning, she would send me a list of everything that I had to do, right? Call this person, do this, do that, do that. And all the pending files, she would basically have, let's say, 8 of these at one time. And every morning she would send me the next 2 or 3 things for each file that needed to get done. And then throughout the day, I'd say, hey, okay, appraisal on Jones is done. We dealt with the HOA on Stevenson or whatever. And like every day we were updating these sheets, and every day she was sending me the next grouping of tasks that needed to get done for every file. And I was doing the client facing stuff and she was managing it all behind the scenes. Okay. And in order for her to know the deadlines, it had to be on her calendar, right? Call buyer to summarize the next steps. Truthfully, I've probably already done that by this time, but this is just a reminder. Hey, buyer, here's what we're going to do with the inspections. Here's what I want you to get everything organized for the lender. This is happening next. This is happening after that, right? Confirm info on the community association disclosure. Half the time it's wrong anyway. Okay, so I know that if you get to the end and you know, they said the fee was $200 and the fee's $300, then the buyer's gonna or the seller's gonna pay for it. That's like saying, well, if I get in a car accident and it's their fault, then it's their fault. I don't give a damn. I don't want to be in a car accident, right? I don't want any problems at the end, because if somebody gets upset and they don't want to pay the bill, guess who's they're going to look at to pay the bill? The agents. And I don't want to pay the bill, right? So I am doing all those checks ahead of time to make sure, hey, HOA, my buyer is looking to purchase a home in your community, and I just wanted to run through the disclosure statement to make sure it's accurate, right? Is it true that you have no litigation? Is it true that the fee is $225 a month? Is it true that it includes the gate? Are the roofs covered, right? These, all the questions I'm going to go through one by one and make sure that I get the correct answers. Okay. If by chance I get something, I find out that something is incorrect, I would go back to the seller and say, hey, look, the person at the HOA said the fee is $250, not $240. So I think you should change this, right? Let's make sure that everyone is in agreement that this is what it is, so there's no hassle later. Okay. Obtain HOA documents. They need to know if somebody is considering buying in a community with rules and regulations. We want to make sure we understand what the rules and regulations are, right? Can they put a fence up? Does it have to be made of a certain material? Can it be a certain height? You know, do they have to get some kind of approval to paint their shutters, or to you know, it could be anything, right? What's the voting procedures here? What's the rent restrictions on rentals? Are there people behind in their HOA fees? Because that can impact the health, if you will, of the community, right? Okay, then we're going to do some of our inspections. By the way, our job is not to tell the buyer whether they're making a good decision. Our job is to collect the information for them and say, here, this is your due diligence period. This is something I would read if I was you, right? Okay, home inspection, termite inspection, radon gas inspection. If the home is on septic, I would recommend having a septic inspection, okay? And then any other inspections that might be recommended. So for example, if the home inspector comes in and says, hey, that deck I've got some issues with the deck, it's not supported properly, I recommend having a structural engineer come over. Okay, let's get the structural engineer over, right? We want our buyer, we're not looking for a way to say, oh, you don't need a structural engineer. Look, if the place is a dump, I don't want you to buy it either. Let's go buy a good house, right? Next is completing the buyer information sheet for the attorney. So once the attorney gets the file, every attorney is a little different on how they handle this, but more often than not, there's going to be a sheet that the attorney either sends directly to the buyer or to the buyer through the agent. And same thing with the seller. And it's basically just an information sheet. So for the buyer, it's asking questions like, do you want to hold the home joint tenancy or right of survivorship? And is there going to be a need for a power of attorney or any of those kind of things? They want to know your social and your contact information and that kind of thing. Just get the buyer to fill it out and send it over. Personally, I don't even want to be involved in that because more often than not, they ask for the social security number and I don't want to know it, right? On the seller side, they're asking questions like, who's your loan holder and what's the account number? And do we have your permission to call on your behalf to the lender and get a payoff amount? And where are you going to be moving to so we can send you any paperwork or that kind of thing. So just this information sheet from the lender. I'm sorry, from the attorney. So once you get that, just facilitate it getting back into the hands of the attorney. Okay. If I did not know the lender or the attorney, then I always made a point to call them and said, hey, I'm Bill, I'm with Keller Williams, I'm representing the buyer. You are the buyer's, good friend from college and you're the lender. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew me and I knew you and we knew how to reach each other in case there was an issue in the future. Okay. Same thing with the attorney. Hey, you're a new attorney or you're one I've not had a relationship with before. This is how to reach me. I'm happy to do anything you need. I'm excited to be your partner. How's everything going? Need any help right now? You see what I'm saying? Okay, then we're going to negotiate some repairs, right? We're going to find out what's wrong with the home or find out what the buyer wants to address. We're going to fill out the amendment to address concerns and we're going to send it over and negotiate. Okay, once that's done, we're going to update the Google Drive and DocuSign because now we've got an amended contract most likely, right? So we have new fully executed paperwork that needs to be recorded. Okay, we're going to order the appraisal. Who was I on the phone with? Ashley this morning. I think Ashley is working with a buyer who is using their own lender, right? And this lender did something that I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it drives me insane. And which is, I don't want the lender ordering the appraisal until I say it's okay. Because what just happened with Ashley is she just submitted an amendment to address concerns with the property that has a bunch of things on there that the buyer theoretically doesn't like, right? And they want addressed. And simultaneously, the seller gets a call from the appraiser saying, hey, I'll be over on Tuesday. If I was the listing agent, I'd be like, well, I guess I don't care so much about all these inspection issues because they just dropped another $500 on the deal. You see what I'm saying? That's like, you get one screw up with that, if that, and then you're done with me. Like that is the first, I would be going to that lender right now and said, you ever do that again, we're never working together again. Are you clear? Okay. You're messing up our buyer's negotiation power. It's hard enough in this market. Quit screwing around. Don't be doing anything without talking to me first. I know that sounds a little in your face, but guys, it's hard to represent a buyer right now. We need every little bit of leverage we can have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Pam, you want to add something?
The only thing I would add is, make sure, check with the lender to see how long they're experiencing it take for appraisers to get out there, because sometimes if you have a tight closing deadline, that can affect when you need to order the appraisal.
Yeah, and that's a conversation I would have prior to the contract. If I know they're going to be working with a person I'm not familiar with, then I want to call and say, hey, we've got a common client. Can I take a look at the loan worksheet? And I just want to make sure that, I'm typically putting 21 days for financing, 21 days for appraisal. Is that time frame you're comfortable with? Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In a market like this, being that it may take a little bit longer for you to get an appraisal, like, what's the rule of the, I would hate to lose a deal because I couldn't get the appraisers out there. So when we're doing the paperwork, like, what should you put if you haven't talked to that lender? It's something that's kind of rushed, happened over the weekend and you have a deadline. How do you effectively help your client with, making sure that you're giving them enough time to get the appraisal, but also not losing it because you took too much time for the appraisal?
If I The biggest problem of what you just said is that you can't get a hold of the lender. So I would say 21 days on the low end if I can't get a hold of the lender for some crazy reason. But if I can't get a hold of the lender when I'm trying to write the lender's borrower's purchase offer, that's a big problem. Okay. If we're going to be teammates, I need you to be on your A game. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that issue with you.
So let's just say, because I got somebody who already came to me with the lender, fully pre-approved, and it's just like the lender's out of state. I would rather not use them because they're out of state.
Say,
Should I
great. So I've tried to reach your lender for 3 days straight. I've got some very significant concerns about this before we move forward. Okay. If we can't reach the lender and when there's no emergency, how it's going to be putting the likelihood of you getting this loan and you getting the house in jeopardy. Would you like to talk to somebody local? Okay. I would be willing to almost guarantee that they could beat or at least match what you're being offered from the Bank of America person in Seattle.
And they're more responsive.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank
And
you.
even though you have pre-approval from one lender on your financing contingency, they don't have to stick with that lender. They just need to stay with the same type of loan. Is that correct?
There's a few things you said, which let me restate that. So the pre-approval letter that is submitted does not necessarily, the lender on that letter does not necessarily have to be the lender that issues the loan. When on the financing contingency, where it says, it seems to imply that's where you should put your lender or who you think the loan will be through, you want to leave that blank. Okay, basically, if you were to put Kathy with Shelter Mortgage, then Kathy is the only person that can issue the denial letter. Okay, it is my recommendation, and I think Melba would agree to this, that you leave that blank. That allows you to pursue any lender and get denied from any lender. Pam, you agree with that?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay.
I remember Melba said that too. Like,
man,
Melba did say that a couple of times on some classes that I took with her.
Nice. Melba and I are agreeing a lot lately. This is cool. Okay. We're going to order the appraisal. Okay. We're going to schedule the closing. The first person who generally schedules the closing gets their time. Okay. I'm a stickler about time. I don't want to be told the closing's at 3 o'clock if that's not convenient for me. So I'm going to be the first one to schedule the closing, and it's going to be convenient for me. Does that make sense? Slash my borrower, but primarily me. Does it make sense? Y'all follow that? That is a perfect example of, are you intentional about your time or are you reactive with your time? Are you just going to do the closing whenever somebody says do the closing, or are you going to make your best effort to make it flow into your day the way you want it to, right? Life by design or life by default? Make sense? Okay, now we got to do some checking in. We got to check in with the lender. Hey, lender, how's everything going? Need anything? Everyone behaving themselves? Okay, great, thank you. Now we got to satisfy the financing contingency, the appraisal contingency. Okay, check in with the stipulate. Really, I probably should add check in with the attorney too, just to make sure they're not experiencing any struggles there. Okay, check in with the stips and notes. What I mean by that is, were there any unique things going on in the file that needed to, for this particular file, that needed to be addressed? An example of that would be like, did we get the receipts from the inspections or the repairs? Or, did we agree to, turn over some type of paperwork or something like that, right? I want to make sure nothing was missed there. Order the home warranty. We want to confirm as closing is about to happen, confirm Google Drive and DocuSign are updated. Okay, here's something called the neighbor signed welcome card, which I had every intention of doing and never did even once. Okay, but I had an idea that, let's say Michael was buying this house. I was going to go to the neighborhood and knock on the 10 doors over here, the 10 doors over here, and the 20 doors across the street and say, hey, I'm Bill. There's a gentleman named Michael that's buying this property today, and I just wanted to give him a welcome note from all of the neighbors. Would you mind signing your name to this? By the way, have you thought about moving? Question 1, right? Question 2, do you happen to know anyone that's talked about moving that our team could help? By the way, when it comes to real estate, who do you trust? Right? Oh my gosh, I saw all those cars out there, you know, when that home was listed. I guess you're the one that won, huh? Yeah, I work super hard for my buyers. That's why I'm here talking to you. Make sense? It all pieces together. You guys see that? Okay, I didn't do it once. I can't tell you if it works, but I bet it would work. Okay, I'm being very transparent with you. Okay, so we get a clear to close. Okay. There used to be this, I think they actually do this. If you were to enter your name, enter the buyer's name into Georgia Natural Gas, if on their realtor website, like if they sign up with Georgia Natural Gas for a gas account, you get like a $25 gift card and they get a $50 gift card. Okay, final paperwork. Is there anything else that needs to be dealt with? Closing gift, attend the closing. We took a photo at closing. I can't believe the photo at closing is not a bold here, because Ruth would really have to be like at the closing table. Bill, you've probably forgotten twice to take a picture at the closing. Do not forget. I see your schedule. The closing should be ending soon. Do not forget. Okay. Update client Google contact file. Okay, so now they have a new address, right? So you need to put the new address there. You might need to tag them for a neighborhood nurture, right? Their data is different. Okay. Input anniversary calls to calendar. So I'd call them 1 week later, 1 month later, and then every year on their anniversary. So if you bought on September 5th, I called you the following September. I called you October 5th to make sure everything was good. Then I called you, I called you September 12th, then October 5th, and then October 5th forever, or September 5th forever. Okay. Post the pic to social media. I wrote a handwritten note. I sent out a survey to the buyers so they could tell me what they liked and what they didn't like, and asked for a testimonial. Okay, I even wrote a handwritten note to the co-op agent because I want a bunch of friends in this business, right? Think it's good to have friends in the business when there's 50 offers that people are competing with? I do. Okay, I'd get a written testimonial, a video testimonial. I'd post them everywhere I could post them. I'd move the file to closed file in Google Drive. I'd write a testimonial for the other agent. Okay. And then because I was doing some recruiting, I'd do a co-op agent script. I'd call them and say, hey, let's go grab coffee or yada, yada. And I'd add them to the agent database of the agents that I had relationships with. And then the 1 week, 1 month, and 1 year call. And then all of this just simply has a, did you do it? Yes or no? What date did you do it? And are there any notes? And this was a shared document between my assistants and I. So all of this is to say that if you do something over and over again, it should have a system. So is there anyone that does not plan on helping a buyer in their real estate career? I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's probably part of everyone's plan, right? To help a buyer buy or to help a seller sell. If so, you should have a list like this. Now, the other thing is we talked a lot at Family Reunion about uniqueness, right? So what are you doing unique in a unique way that separates the experience of handling a real estate transaction through Michael Gould rather than Travis Vitale, right? So maybe you send some warm milk and chocolate chip cookies when due diligence period ends. Maybe you send, instead of one closing gift at the end for $25, maybe you send a $5 gift at this stage in the contract, a $5 gift at this stage in the contract. And then you send a $10, some cookies to their work. So everyone's like, ooh, Joe got cookies. Who are those from, Joe? My realtor. Realtor? I never got any cookies from my realtor. Wait, you haven't gotten cookies from your realtor? You follow what I'm saying? Okay, was this helpful, guys?
Sorry.
Okay, any questions?
On-
Linda, I see your question there. Is that what you're about to ask?
yeah, I'm iffy on who sets up what appointments because, they have to be convenient for my seller or convenient for my buyer.
Yes, and I probably confused it by explaining that story. The appraisal is ordered by the lender. I'm going to have a conversation with the lender ahead of time that says, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm in charge, and I'm going to be the one to decide when it's ordered. Okay, and it's not for my benefit; it's for the negotiation benefit of my client. So I'd say, hey, just so you know, there's some things that we're trying to get negotiated repair-wise. Don't order the appraisal until we speak, okay? And if they order the appraisal when I told them not to, like, what are you doing? Right? This is a simple instruction. I expect you to follow the simple instruction, or you can't be on the team. So do you want to be on the team? Because I'm gonna work with 30 buyers this year. If you want to be on the team, I need you to follow the order. I know I sound a little cocky, but do you guys understand how important this is? You have to take control. You are in control of the file. Okay. You are the choreographer of the entire experience. Believe me, if anybody messes up, the buyer's coming for you anyway. Okay, so your job is to make sure that all these people behave. Does anyone want to? Pam, have you? What are you thinking?
I'm sorry, I was reading a text. What was the question about?
Just like, do you think that kind of attitude, if you will, is wrong?
I'm
The
sorry.
attitude of like, hey, I want it done this way, right? Don't order the appraisal until I say so, right?
No, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, you're looking out for the buyer's best interest. The lender is not always aware of exactly where you are as far as negotiating terms or knowing what's wrong with the house, and to see how important, that there may be items your buyer is willing to walk on. So they don't want to order that appraisal because they have to pay for it at the time it's ordered.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, everyone who contributed today. Don't forget that we are doing, let me just double check. Success Series this Friday from 12 to 1 will be with Paige Pace. Our Launch Mastermind is Friday from 1 to 2, and our Growth Mastermind is Thursday at 11 o'clock. Please don't forget that yesterday was the day, the final day of the third week in February. So if you could please take a moment and include your numbers. And for those that have not done their numbers for the first 2 weeks, please do so. It's going to be even harder to remember what they were every day that goes by. So just let's take stock of where we are. Okay, it's the 22nd of the month. We've got one more week to get on pace. Okay, one more week. Everyone set these goals because they want to achieve a bunch of stuff in their world, and I want to see you hit those goals. So let's make sure that we're really hunkering down on our activities, these specific activities, if you happen to be behind right now. Okay, we've only gotten 2, 3, 4 people that have 5 people that have put in their numbers for this month. 6 people, 7 people. Thank you very much in advance, and I'll see you tomorrow.